Good morning. I am Martina Andellini. I am a biomedical engineer and I am a PhD student at the University of Warwick. This work was carried out in collaboration between the University of Warwick and Manchester Children's Hospital. The work I'm going to present is the development of a decision-making support algorithm for active implantable medical devices evaluation. Let's start with a brief introduction. The European Network on Health Technology Assessment developed 3 models for the evaluation of medical and surgical interventions, screening technologies, and diagnostic technologies. However, a specific guidelines for medical devices evaluation is still lacking. However, the medical device market size is growing over the recent year and it is projected to expand at a compound annual growth rate of 5.4% between 2019 and 2025. As the market of medical devices is significantly growing, the AIMD Health Technology Assessment Division in 2016 held a focus group to study the future perspective of health technology assessment of medical devices. As part of this group, we started analyzing the difference between medical devices and drugs and their impact on health technology assessment. Results led us outlining the main critical issues affecting medical devices as a starting point to develop methods and guidelines for health technology assessment of medical devices. Here you can see the related publication and the results are summarized in this table where you can see the identification of the medical devices' main characteristics and functionality and their impact on health technology assessment methods and evaluation. In few words, the 2 most critical issues related to the health technology assessment of medical devices are that the medical devices have a short life cycle due to the iterative innovations and their constantly evolving components parts. It increases the difficulties in evaluation of medical devices at market launch. We usually rely on limited evidence to measure their safety, efficacy, effectiveness, and bioinformatics. The second one is that the medical devices' clinical effectiveness and performance measurements that are strongly dependent by clinical settings and by user experience and abilities. Often, it requires intensive training and the number of complications generally increase with the use. So, taking into account this background, the work I'm going to present is focused on a particular class of medical devices, the one with the highest risk class that are the active or implantable medical devices. The aim of our work was to develop a rigorous and reliable decision-making support tool for active implantable medical devices assessment, including the definition of the evaluation criteria and of the most suitable methods for collecting evidence in order to evaluate the active implantable medical devices performances and to finally select the most suitable and patient-specific model. More specifically, looking at the Italian market, the cardiac defibrillators and pacemakers are currently the most spread active implantable medical devices. So we decided to start our study considering pacemaker and cardiac defibrillators as a case study to develop our model. So the first step, we carried out a literature review on PubMed in order to gather evidence on safety, efficacy, effectiveness, organizational aspect, and so on about the use of pacemaker into clinical practice. We completed these findings with a safety analysis carried out throughout PubMed FDA mode database, identifying all the types and the number of adverse events occurred since 2015. Then we integrated the result obtained with the analysis of the technical characteristics of technology through the consultation of manufacturer datasheets and the comparative tables provided by ECRI Institute. In this table, as you can see, several pacemaker models were described with respect to a number of technical characteristics. The evidence gathered until now were carefully analyzed and integrated in a decisional hierarchy structure. So following the Netacol model, we extracted the most suitable domains for our specific context analysis. So we analyzed the safety, the clinical effectiveness, the cost and economic evaluation, the technical characteristics of technology, organizational aspects, and social, ethical, and legal aspects. Each domain is then decomposed into its constituent parts, identified by a number of criteria defined by the previous work carried out by AIMD Health Technology Assessment Division about the health technology assessment of medical device. So we are referring to the feature and the characteristics identified related to the medical devices assessment. Each criteria is then described by a number of key performance indicators defined this time from the synthesis of evidence. And this is an example of the safety domain that is described by 4 criteria that are the patient safety, usability, risk analysis, and technological risks defined by the work made by the AIMD Technology Assessment Division. And then each of these criteria is then described by a number of key performance indicators related to the pacemaker and that came out from the synthesis of the literature. To reach our objective, first, we extracted from the second level KPI the main technical characteristics of pacemaker that have direct implication on the safety, clinical effectiveness, and the other criteria, domains. So, considering these technical characteristics, we built a database similar to that provided by ECRI. The technical characteristics of the most relevant pacemaker products for different manufacturers present on the market were carefully analyzed and were made explicit with respect to the technical characteristics that we consider relevant and discriminant factors. Meanwhile, from the clinical point of view, we involved in our study a number of cardiologists of Gesualdo Children's Hospital that helps us identifying all the discriminant characteristics of patients which are usually taken into account by physicians during pacemaker model selection. For each of these variables, we identified a range of values for which the decision about the pacemaker model may change. For instance, about the age, we considered 4 categories from 0 to 5 years old, from 3 to 6, from 6 to 9, and from 9 to 18, and so on for the other characteristics. The objective of this work, in simple words, is to model through a mathematical approach the current decision-making process made by physician in the selection of pacemaker for a specific patient, a specific condition. So the first step was the identification of a set of variables related to pacemaker technical characteristics. Then we identified a number of variables related to patient clinical characteristics, and now we decided to use a fuzzy logic approach to model the link between these 2 sets of variables. So throughout a set of fuzzy logic rules which match the current physician decision-making process, it will be possible to associate 1 or more patient clinical characteristics to pacemaker technical features. The set of rules will obviously be one-to-many, and at the end of the process, each technical characteristics will assume a percentage value which represents whether that feature is useful to address the patient-specific clinical problem. So the next step will be the identification of the most suitable patient-specific pacemaker model. So thanks to the database previously built, in which all pacemakers present on the market were described in terms of the technical characteristics identified, and crossing the data, it will be possible to understand which will be the model or the limited number of models which best fit the clinical question. So the fuzzy logic final score results in a weight score associated to each technical characteristics previously defined. So the pacemaker model from the database that results with the highest score level will represent the one that includes the highest number of specifications reflecting the most suitable pacemaker for the specific case. So the assessment process supported by the algorithm resulted to be a helpful instrument in selecting the most suitable patient-specific model. The perfect pacemaker contains altogether the most appropriate technical characteristics does not seem to exist on the market. A compromise it will be necessary, and the pacemaker model resulting with the highest score will represent the one that includes the highest number of specifications reflecting the most suitable pacemaker for the specific case. In conclusion, the analytical decision-making algorithm will provide a useful support tool for multidisciplinary evaluation processes, which will be helpful in standardizing the decision process, providing quantitative and repeatable results, and it will guide the selection and introduction of innovative health technologies in clinical setting, increasing the decision makers' awareness. Thank you for your attention.